Hello, families of Spanish students at Westwood. I am Maggie Holen. Your students probably call me Profe Holen, or your students might be thinking, that's not my teacher. If you are in Senora Lewis's class, I am also making your video because she is out on maternity leave, so you're familiar with her sub, Senora Barroa. But Senora Baroa is not responsible for curriculum night. So I've got curriculum for both Spanish classes because we do all of the same things. So I will be talking about Intro to Spanish, as well as Spanish 1, as well as Juntos. And Juntos I will give instructions or an overview in English and Spanish. So you can just look for the part of the video where I'm discussing your class. I'm on your Schoology page, so you'll be able to see which class I'm discussing at all times. A couple times I'll jump into a slideshow, but you should recognize your material, students, if you're watching with your parents. So I'm going to start with Intro to Spanish. Intro to Spanish, we're starting out pretty awesome this year. I'm super excited about how much I'm already seeing kids learn. Some things that we've been focusing on, and my slide's going to be slow, are days of the week, and then we just briefly started weather this week, but we've been talking about days of the week and learning how to say, I feel happy, or I feel sad, or I feel angry, or I feel tired because it's Monday. More specifically, my classmate feels tired because it's Monday. We originally played around with it with animals. We said the animal feels tired because it's Monday. So we've found playful little ways to talk about the days of the week, as well as some basic feeling words. And then, like I said, just briefly, we have begun to touch on the weather. And so like you see here, there are always tons of visuals. And so to give you an example of what I would do in class, and so how I would teach your kids these words, I would, with my hand, I would be pointing at this slide. I would say, clase, hoy en Blaine, Minnesota, hace sol, and then I would outline the sun with a marker. Hace sol, sí o no? And most of them figure it out right away and they say, sí. And then I would say, muy bien. Hoy en Blaine, Minnesota, and then I would outline the cloud. ¿Está nublado? And they would say, sí. And I would say, hoy en Blaine, Minnesota, está un poco nublado o muy nublado. And some of them will show me un poco, a lot of them will shout un poco, because they figure it out pretty quickly. And then another example of kind of what we're starting to jump into. So we are just today, we started bridging into our next unit, which is storytelling. So our two strategies for teaching are called comprehensible input, and which is CI, and TPRS, which is teaching proficiency through reading and storytelling. And so we tell stories. The kids, for example, today we went through these 5 vocabulary words. We talked about the difference between este es and esta es. Ask your kid. I bet they can tell you what the difference is. And then we attached some actions to words like camina, ve, and dice. And so we practiced camina, ve, and dice with their actions for a little bit before we even started the story. And then we jumped into the story and I said, clase, este es Ramón. And then I pointed to this word here and I said, este es Ramón o esta es Ramón. And they said, este es Ramón. And then I pointed to another student in class and I said, este es Ramón? And they said, no. And I pointed back to our boy on the board, este es Ramón? Sí. Clase, Ramón es inteligente, sí o no? And they said, sí. And I said, en inglés, ¿qué es inteligente? And they shout, intelligent. So we act out these things. We circle. It's called circling. I say everything so many times, so slowly. What you heard is even just a fraction of the amount of times we go through these 2 sentences. And so we take it slow. We build up. By the end of class, on the first day of this story, kids were reading this whole slide. Ramón camina a McDonald's. Carmen camina a Subway. Ramón ve a Carmen. Without any problem. And they understood exactly what it meant. So That's the kind of thing that we are doing in Intro to Spanish. And so we will have each unit, I'm going to go back to Schoology here, each unit will have its own folder. And so the red folder is the right now folder. So red is right now, red is whatever we're currently working on. Anything that's in blue is something that we have completed or that we just won't be necessarily needing that folder as frequently. I don't have any right now, but if there are ever white folders in your Schoology pages, those mean resources that students will access periodically, regularly, throughout the school year, but that don't necessarily belong to a unit. And so right now, you can see that we have just finished our feelings/days of the week video, unit, and we are moving on to El Secreto de Ramón, which means Ramon's secret. So, intro, we tell stories, we ask questions, we ask lots of either or questions, and so far we've covered feelings and days of the week, and we are just beginning to discuss some new verbs. So I'm excited to see what your kids can do with that. If you have questions, I will tell you about the Q&A session that we are going to have at the very end of the video. I'll tell you about it. Moving on to Spanish 1. So Spanish 1, if you watch the intro section of the video, is very, very similar. White folders are folders that we're going to use constantly throughout the school year, so Quizlets will always be something that your students are going to access with some regularity. Red folders mean the right now folders, so they're what we are working on right now, the current unit. And then blue folders are past units or things that we are more or less completed. So this little Schoology setup here shows us that students are currently working on the folder Hola y Amigo. Now, we just started it today, so there's nothing in the folder yet because we don't do a whole lot of work in Schoology. Most of our work, especially at the beginning of the unit, is listening and watching me. I'm providing input and things so that students can make connections with new words via visuals and actions while I am speaking, so they can pair the action that they're seeing with the sound that they're hearing. So I'll give you an example. This is one of our slides from this week. This was Monday's slide, and so I said, Clase, ¿qué día es hoy? And this is a question I've been asking them since the first day of school. And they all said, Hoy es lunes. And I said, Bien, hoy es lunes el 27 de septiembre, ¿sí o no? And they said, sí. And I said, Clase, ¿qué día fue ayer? And they said, Domingo. And I said, muy bien. Clase, ¿qué día es mañana? And they said, martes. And again, these are questions that they have heard just about every single school day since the beginning of the year. So they're pretty comfortable with these questions. If they're watching with you, I bet they can tell you exactly what they mean. And then the next thing I would do is say, Chicos, ¿qué tiempo hace hoy en Blaine, Minnesota? Hoy en Blaine, Minnesota, hace sol? And I would outline the sun with my hand or with a marker. And then most of them would say, sí, hoy hace sol. And then I would say, clase, hoy en Blaine, Minnesota, está nublado, as I outline the cloud. Most of them, because they're so smart already in Spanish 1, before they even say yes, they'll tell me, está un poco nublado. They don't even say, yes, it's cloudy. They correct me right away to, it's only a little cloudy. And then we say, clase, hoy en Blaine, Minnesota, hace calor? And they say, no. And I say, hace frío? And they say, no. And I say, hace fresco? And they say, sí. Because they are, well, we sometimes have to discuss our opinions because they have very differing opinions of what is hot and what is cool and what is cold. But I would imagine if you asked your student to talk you through this slide or to even interpret what I just said in the video, that they would be able to without a problem. So we do the day of the week, the date, what day was it yesterday, what day is it tomorrow, and then what's the weather like, the beginning of class every day. So your students will be super comfortable with those things in no time if they're not already. And then the next thing that we do, intro, is pretty similar. If your child took Intro to Spanish last year, they are super familiar with storytelling. So just like an intro in Spanish 1, we use comprehensible input, which is CI, and then TPRS, which is teaching proficiency through reading and storytelling. And this is basically, we read stories together. I read them out loud. I act things out. I ask questions. So with this slide today, I said, clase, hay un chico, sí o no? And they said, sí. And I said, hay un chico o una chica? And they say, un chico. And I say, el chico se llama Miguel, sí o no? And they say, sí. And then I point to a student and I say, ¿tú te llamas Miguel? And the student says, no, my name's not Miguel. Me llamo Profe Holland, whatever their name is. And so we talk through this slide, one sentence at a time, and we talk about what each of these verbs specifically. We focus a lot on the verbs like vive, lives, and tiene, has. So we tell little stories, and this is only the very first part of a longer story that we are just beginning in class right now. So stories and actions and words, connecting the meanings with the new words that they're hearing via visuals is a strategy that we use. Here's another example of providing a specific phrase. Tiene frío is he or she is feeling cold. And so they get a picture, we act it out, we give it an action in class. So if I say, clase, muéstrame, show me, tiene frío, they go like this. And they show me that they know what tiene frío means with their actions. So, Spanish 1, that is kind of the gist. Again, at the very end of the video, I will have details for the Q&A session that we are going to have in Amy Hatchner's WebEx. So skip to the end if you are Spanish 1 for that information. Moving on to Juntos. I'm going to do this kind of quickly because I'm going to do it in English and then Spanish. Juntos, just exactly the same as Intro in Spanish 1. Red folders mean right now, the current unit. Blue folders mean past units, things that we are finished with. And then I don't have any at the moment, but white folders mean folders that students will access periodically, regularly throughout the school year. So those things would be like maybe Quizlets that they want to study all the time. And I would most likely put them in both the red folder and copy them into the white folder. So they'd have a folder full of Quizlets, as well as they could go to a specific unit and find the vocab for that folder, or for that unit. But Juntos is really based in, we just want to speak Spanish. We are reading a lot in Spanish. We are working on some writing skills because we all kind of start off a little hesitant in our writing skills in Juntos 7. And so we start slow and we build up those skills, correcting little mistakes early on so that we can get to a more proficient level in writing. And then we do a ton of listening, and students seem to thrive right away with the listening. They can interpret anything in Spanish, but it is the output where we struggle a little more. So we are working really hard in Juntos on taking in that input and then also putting out just as much Spanish as we're able to take in, and just kind of bridging that gap between listening and then creating the Spanish ourselves. Really quickly in Spanish, en la clase de Juntos estamos enfocados en crear español, porque muchos de los estudiantes de Juntos pueden leer y pueden entender el español perfectamente cuando yo hablo, pero a veces no pueden escribir tan bien y a veces no pueden hablar muy bien y necesitan fomentar estas herramientas del lenguaje. Necesitamos trabajar más en hablar y también en escribir. Entonces estamos empezando a ayudar a corregir errores más o menos pequeños para que podamos mejorar el español escrito y el español cuando hablamos, porque estos son la mitad del lenguaje. Entonces, no es un clase básico, pero la meta entero de esta clase es hablar y escribir y estar completamente en español. Entonces, we are going to have a Q&A session. I'm running out of time in my video, but we're going to have a Q&A session.